My son, the crown prince of the Immortal Realm, spent 1,000 years training in the mortal world. But when he returned to the heavenly court, my adopted son started crying and sobbing. It's all my fault. I stole Crown Prince's identity for 1,000 years. Leave right now. The little princess met up in person with a rogue immortal she had been in an online relationship with. Yet that rogue immortal forced her to kneel and kowtow to his mistress. Even more infuriating, the Empress, who watched short dramas every day, wanted to recruit a little assistant. Look at those CEOs in the mortal world. They all have assistants. The Empress. What's wrong with me getting a little assistant? Did they really think this Immortal Emperor had no temper? After I had been the Immortal Emperor for 3,000 years, the winds in the Immortal Realm changed. Some ascenders from Blue Star, along with some immortals who had secretly gone down to the mortal world, brought back countless electronic products. These immortals didn't sell immortal pills or immortal artifacts. Instead, they opened plenty of cell phone shops and computer malls. They made a fortune in spirit stones. By now, nearly every immortal had several cell phones. Because of that, these immortals no longer cultivated diligently. But when it came to gaming and binge-watching dramas, each one was more addicted than the next. The cultural invasion from the mortal world was an unstoppable trend. As the Immortal Emperor, it wasn't easy for me to turn against all immortals and shut everything down. I could only issue a decree forbidding immortals from descending to the mortal world without permission. I had just returned to the heavenly court after making a round of inspection outside, when a guard came to reporting to the Immortal Emperor. His Highness, the Crown Prince, has completed 10 lifetimes of reincarnation in the mortal world, proved his great Tao, and returned to the heavenly court. He seems to have clashed with Immortal Lord Zixuan. I frowned slightly. Immortal Lord Zixuan was a green tea tree spirit from Blue Star who had ascended after gaining sentience. Back then, the Crown Prince of the Immortal Realm, Zixuan, had long failed to break through. He had taken the initiative to propose going to the mortal world to temper himself in the mundane world and prove his great Tao. I was deeply gratified to hear that, so I approved it. But my wife missed our son so much that she practically fell ill from it and cried every day. It just so happened that the green tea spirit ascended right then, and his appearance bore a slight resemblance to my son, Xuan's. My wife was overjoyed and begged me to take him in as an adopted son. Seeing how happy my wife was, I agreed. The moment I reached the entrance to the main hall, I saw my wife and 2 daughters gathered around the green tea spirit. Zixuan. Zixuan's cheek was swollen high, and huge tears were falling from his eyes. Brother Xuan's, it's all my fault. I stole Crown Prince's identity for 1,000 years. Leave right now. Hearing that, my wife's eyes were full of heartache. Zixuan, as long as your mother is still in the heavenly court for 1 day, this will forever be your home. No one can drive you away. My eldest daughter, Xingxuan, pointed at Xuan's and coldly demanded, Xuan's, you've got some nerve. What right do you have to hit Zixuan? Do you even know that in the 1,000 years you were gone from the Immortal Realm, Zixuan was the one who stayed by our side? How can you be this vicious? Xuan's face turned pale, and his eyes grew red with urgency. I really didn't hit him. My second daughter, Yaoguang, said in exasperation. Then tell us, if it wasn't you, who was it? There were only the 2 of you here just now. Was it supposed to be Zixuan hitting himself? The green tea spirit cried as if his heart were breaking. Don't blame brother. Brother just came back from training in the mortal world. It's normal that he doesn't recognize me. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have appeared in front of Brother Xuan's. I offended brother. My wife was heartbroken. She pulled the green tea spirit into her arms. Zixuan, you're just too kind. That's why Xuan's bullied you the very first time you met. Then she furiously scolded Xuan's, you were only down in the lower world for 1,000 years. Where did all your manners go? Why aren't you kneeling and apologizing to Zixuan right now? Zixuan continued, sobbing, and his eyes were full of provocation when he looked at Xuan's. At this moment, Xuan's did not explain himself again. Killing intent suddenly erupted from his body, and his overwhelming pressure stretched across thousands of miles. The pressure of a Quasi-Emperor made everyone's hearts tremble. Yeah, Zixuan locked onto Zixuan with deadly focus. It was clear that if he said one more wrong word, he would suppress him on the spot. The green tea spirit trembled all over in fright. He had never expected Zixuan to have already reached the Quasi-Emperor realm. How is that possible? He had ascended to the Immortal Realm 1,000 years ago. Over the past 1,000 years, he had eaten, drunk, and played around, and his cultivation had advanced slowly. Even now, he was only a golden immortal. The gap between him and Zixuan, who was in the Quasi-Emperor realm, was like the distance of 100,000 dollars. At this moment, his eyes were filled with fear, and he kept backing away. I am the crown prince of the heavenly realm. You offended this crown prince. So, what if I hit you? At this moment, Zixuan was full of the authority of one in a high position. He commanded awe without needing to show any anger. Compared to this green tea spirit, who only knew how to cry and sob, he was many times stronger. I couldn't help but nod slightly. In Cultivation, the strong ruled. Why bother explaining further? As expected of my son, the Empress and my 2 daughters were stunned as well. Of course, I knew why they were shocked. They lived in the heavenly court and could draw upon countless cultivation resources at will. And yet, right now, the Empress was only in the Immortal King realm. My 2 daughters had been stuck at the peak of the Golden Immortal Realm for 1,000 years without making the slightest progress. Meanwhile, Zixuan had only spent 1,000 years in the lower world. Yet, he had actually reached the Quasi-Emperor realm after recovering from her shock. My wife flew into a rage. You, rebellious son, even if your cultivation is heaven-defying, do you still dare attack someone right in front of me? Why aren't you kneeling and apologizing to me right now? My 2 daughters also started rebuking him. Hurry up and kneel. Are you really going to keep going down the wrong path to the very end? Yeah, Zixuan, what you've shown today really disappoints me. You're so narrow-minded. How are you worthy of being my brother? How are you worthy of being the crown prince of the heavenly court? As the tension in the hall grew thicker and thicker, I frowned in disappointment and stepped inside. That's enough. I cut them off in a deep voice. It wasn't loud, but the entire hall instantly fell silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Yeah, Zixuan's crying came to an abrupt stop. Tears still clung to his face, making him look pitiful and delicate. Greetings, Father Emperor. Other than my wife, everyone knelt down. I slowly walked toward Zixuan and spoke gently. Zixuan, tell me what exactly happened. Just as Zixuan was about to speak, my wife anxiously interrupted. What else is there to say? He came back and immediately hit Zixuan. He really has no sense of rules at all. I raised a hand to signal for her to be quiet, and my gaze remained fixed on Zixuan. Father Emperor. Yay. Zixuan took a deep breath. Your son had just returned to the heavenly court when this immortal Lord Zixuan came looking for me on his own. He said that I had gone to the lower world for 1,000 years. So, why hadn't I died out there? And why had I come back then? What nonsense! You're actually trying to smear Zixuan too. I never thought you could be this vicious. My eldest daughter, Zixuan, couldn't help cutting in. I cast her a faint glance. She shuddered in fear and hurriedly shut her mouth. And then he suddenly started slapping himself. Your son was also very shocked. Then mother and my 2 elder sisters showed up. Shut up! My second daughter, Yaoguang, angrily said. Zixuan is so kind. How could he possibly do something like that? My wife loudly rebuked him. You've stayed in the lower world for over 1,000 years. Your cultivation may have grown, but so has the filth in your heart. And now you dare slander Zixuan. I was utterly disappointed in these 3 women. They watched short dramas every day and cursed out green tea bitches. And now that a green tea spirit was right by their side, all of them had suddenly gone blind and stupid. I looked toward Zixuan. He was lowering his head, his eyes flickering uncertainly. In that case, I said flatly, then let me use the great memory restoration technique and take a look. Zixuan suddenly lifted his head, his face instantly turning pale as paper, and his whole body started shaking non-stop. I waved my hand and was about to extract his memories. My wife grew frantic. She hurried over, grabbed my arm, and tried to stop me. Your Majesty, forcibly extracting memories will damage the soul. If you have to do it to Xuan's, not to Zixuan. Even now, she still couldn't tell what was what. This green tea spirit's brainwashing skills were really something. Get lost! I swung my hand, and my wife was instantly sent flying. With a bang, she crashed into the great hall. The entire heavenly court hall trembled. Mother! My two daughters cried out and quickly ran to check on the Empress's injuries. Zixuan's eyes instantly went blank. His memories formed into one scene after another and played out before us. Zixuan's eyes were sinister, and his tone was vicious. Xuan's, you went to the lower world for 1,000 years. Why didn't you just die out there? Damn it! Why did you have to come back? You think that just because you returned to the heavenly court, you can take everything from me. Your position as crown prince and your two stunningly beautiful sisters are all mine. Zixuan laughed a few times, then raised his hand and viciously slapped himself twice. Right after that, he started crying loudly. The entire hall fell into dead silence. My wife and two daughters were completely dumbfounded. They had never imagined that Zixuan was actually this kind of person. A moment later, their expressions turned incredibly ugly. How could this be? Zixuan isn't usually like this. How could this happen? There has to be some mistake. Xuan's let out a long breath, and calm returned to his eyes. Zixuan had already regained his senses. When he saw the cold looks in everyone's eyes, he instantly realized everything had been exposed. With a thud, he dropped to his knees and repeatedly begged for mercy. Father, Emperor, spare me. I was just confused for a moment. I was only afraid that once Crown Prince came back, you all wouldn't want me anymore. So I said, such nonsense. I know. I was wrong. Father, Emperor, Mother, Empress, please, spare me this once. Never dare again. He trembled all over in fear and kept kowtowing and admitting fault. I stared coldly at Zixuan, a green tea tree, spirit from Blue Star. So the reputation really is well-deserved. I gently lifted a hand, and a force of the laws of heaven and earth instantly enveloped him. The entire Immortal Realm felt the pressure of my Emperor realm. Countless immortals looked up at the sky with solemn expressions. But that pressure vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. My wife quickly realized what I was about to do. She anxiously rushed over to stop me, but it was already too late. The tea tree spirit exploded with a bang and burst into a cloud of blood mist. Body and soul annihilated. No, my wife was drenched in blood and let out a sorrowful scream. She collapsed to the ground in a daze, completely shattered. My two daughters also looked at me in fear. Men dragged the Empress and the two princesses away and placed them under confinement without my orders. None of them may step beyond the gate of their courtyard. If they can't even do something as basic as distinguishing right from wrong, how are they worthy of the imperial family status? Very quickly, those three foolish women were dragged away. Xuan's walked over to my side and softly said, Father, Emperor, actually, Mother and my sisters were only deceived. I patted his shoulder and felt deeply gratified. It's good that you can think that way, but the punishment they deserve still has to be given. It looks like this 1,000 years of training truly made you grow a lot. Go get some rest first. Xuan's nodded and respectfully withdrew. 2 days later, I was watching Fairy Changes livestream when my personal attendant hurried in to report, Immortal Emperor, something terrible has happened. Little Princess Biao was beaten by the prince consort. It said he even forced her to kowtow and apologize to his mistress. I was stunned on the spot and wondered if I had heard wrong. I had 3 daughters in total. The entire Immortal Realm knew that Fairy Biao was the little princess I cherished most. Just as I was about to ask what exactly had happened, the little princess came running back in tears. She threw herself into my arms and burst into loud sobs. Bit by bit, she told me what had happened. It turned out the prince consort had another woman outside, and he had even had a second child. Today, he had brazenly brought them home and ordered the princess to serve his mistress. The princess refused. So, the prince consort slapped her hard across the face. Then, he ordered her to kneel and kowtow to his mistress and take away her immortal bone as an apology. Father, Emperor, it's a good thing your daughter ran fast enough, or else. At that point, she broke down, crying. Again, pitiful, beyond words. It shattered my heart. Then, she slowly and tearfully told me about the 10 years of married life she had spent with the prince consort. This prince consort was also someone who had ascended from Blue Star 200 years ago. Back when he ascended, Blue Star had still been under the great Qing dynasty. The rules in the prince consort's family were especially numerous. Every single day, they forced the princess to kneel and pay respects to his mother. If the princess showed even the slightest unwillingness, she would be punished according to family rules, either beaten or cursed at. 1 year after the marriage, she discovered that the prince consort often watched one fairy's live stream. He was showering her with gifts like crazy. Very quickly, he became her top donor. The two often did live audio calls together. He even made video calls with that little vixen right in front of the princess. Some of the princess' immortal artifacts and jewelry were all taken by the prince consort and given to the mistress. Later, he often didn't even come home at night. He spent his days fooling around with that mistress. My face stayed calm, but inside, I was already burning with rage. I pulled her tightly into my arms. Why are you only telling Father Emperor now? I was afraid Father Emperor wouldn't want me anymore. Sob. What? I was wrong. Father Emperor, I regret it. I'll never leave you again. At once, I understood. 10 years ago, little Princess Biao met up in person with a rogue cultivator she had been dating online. She cried and shouted that she would marry no one but him. But the moment I saw that rogue cultivator's shifty-eyed face, I knew he was absolutely no good. So, I firmly refused. Back then, I had nearly slapped that rogue cultivator to death. For that, the little princess made a huge scene, and she even insisted on severing ties with me to marry him. She had infuriated me half to death. In the end, I left her with harsh words. If you really choose to be with him, then just act like you never had me as your father emperor. The little princess knelt on the ground, heavily kowtowed to me 3 times, and resolutely left. But what father in this world doesn't love his child? And what's more, she was my most beloved youngest daughter. For the past 10 years, not a single day had passed when I didn't think about her. As the Immortal Emperor, naturally, I couldn't bring myself to lower my head first. The prince consort's family on Blue Star had indeed been a cultivation family, but none of his relatives had reached the realm of ascension. Still, for her sake, I had secretly brought all of the prince consort's family up here. I even brought up all of his relatives. What I never could have imagined was that this bastard would treat my daughter like this. Right now, I was furious. How dare he not put this immortal emperor in his eyes? I'd like to see whether his whole family could withstand this emperor's wrath. I immediately led a huge force and headed straight for the prince consort's home. When the prince consort's entire family saw us arriving so aggressively, they knelt to the ground in fear and reverence. Greetings, Immortal Emperor. I looked at the shift-eyed man kneeling on the ground. Beside him were 2 children and a beautiful woman. One child looked 7 or 8 years old, and the other looked about 4 or 5. When the 2 children saw me, they bared sharp fangs. As for that beautiful woman, she was incredibly seductive and alluring. Her true form really was a fox spirit, and an extremely rare 9-tailed demon fox. At that, I glared furiously at the prince consort, wishing I could grind him into pieces. Prince consort, the princess says, you not only hit her, but also tried to force her to kneel and dig out her immortal bone. He raised his head and said indignantly, Immortal Emperor, Princess Biao is truly far too willful. Every time she kneels to greet my mother at home, she does it with obvious reluctance and shows no respect for my mother. That is unfilial. Not only that, but I am the head of the household, so naturally, everything should follow my will. I merely used a few of her immortal artifacts, yet she argues with me every 2 or 3 days over it. That is disloyal. We've been married for 10 years, yet she has stubbornly refused to have children, trying to make my Fu family line end with me. How vicious! That is unrighteous. I had no choice but to find another woman to bear children for me. But when I brought my outside woman and the children back, she made faces at me. That is jealousy. At that point, he dropped into a full prostration, radiating righteous indignation, as he said, May I ask the Immortal Emperor, for a fairy like Biao who is disloyal, unrighteous, unfilial, and jealous. What is wrong with me merely making her kowtow an apology and dig out her immortal bone as a small punishment and warning? The prince consort's mother also hurriedly chimed in. That's right, Immortal Emperor. A princess with immoral character like Biao is completely unworthy of being my son's wife. Please, your majesty, make the decision for us. Once we dig out Biao's immortal bone, allow my son to divorce her. It had been a long time since I was this angry. The last time had been during the Great War with the demon race. My master had died in battle. In a fury, I slaughtered 10 cities and killed 3 million demons. I entered the Dao through slaughter and proved my emperor position. Princess Biao trembled all over from rage. I tugged her hand and forced down my anger as I said word by word. Then, do you know that from childhood, Biao has been the princess this emperor dotes on the most? But the prince consort proudly lifted his head and said righteously, of course, I know, but all things in this world cannot escape reason. Even if you are the immortal emperor, you still have to be reasonable, don't you? Monstrous fury suddenly erupted from my body. The winds and clouds in the entire immortal realm changed, and the overwhelming pressure made every immortal tremble in fear. I was so furious, I laughed. The prince consort wants to talk reason with this emperor. So then, this emperor will talk reason with you. According to the laws of the great Qing dynasty, before your ascension, your Fu family beat and abused the princess. That is the crime of supreme disrespect. Drag them all out and behead them. Exterminate the 9 generations of their clan. The entire Fu family's expressions changed dramatically. The prince consort's mother cried to heaven and earth. Immortal Emperor, it was your princess who was at fault first, which is why we treated her that way. We won't dig out her immortal bone anymore. Isn't that enough? Too bad. It was already too late. The entire Fu family was immediately placed under control. The prince consort finally panicked and hurriedly knelt to beg for mercy. Immortal Emperor, it's already the 21st century in the mortal world. Now, how can you still use great Qing law? You should keep up with the times. I looked at him like he was an idiot. I had heard that before. Ascending, the prince consort had even gone to sit for the imperial examinations. Sure enough, he was a rotten old scholar. Back then, Biao had really been blind to fall for this kind of trash. I am the ruler of the Immortal Realm. My word is the law. Drag them away. The prince consort struggled desperately, but he couldn't break free from the restraint of the heavenly soldiers and generals. No, Princess Biao, you loved me the most. I really know I was wrong. Please, ask the Immortal Emperor to spare my Fu family. Ill never dare again. Princess, I was bewitched by this fox spirit. Ill cut things off with her right now. You loved me so much before. You can't just watch my whole clan die, can you? I only made the same mistake every man in the Immortal Realm makes. Do you really have to be this petty about it? I glanced at Princess Biao. Do you have anything to say? Princess Biao gave me a graceful bow. I leave everything to Father Emperor to decide for your daughter. I nodded in satisfaction. Knowing one's mistake and correcting it meant she was still salvageable. Otherwise, if she still dared plead for this scumbag, then, no matter how much I loved her, I would never care about her again in the future. Drag them away, exterminate their 9 generations, and annihilate both body and soul. Ill, fight you to the death. No, the Fu family was completely desperate. They still tried to resist to the bitter end, but very quickly, they were all cut down on the spot, one by one. The 9-tailed demon fox wasn't weak. She erupted with a shocking aura and injured quite a few heavenly soldiers and generals, but all that did was make things drag on for a little longer. I confined the Empress for a year. Only after she sincerely repented did I forgive her, perhaps because she had been confined too long. On the very day the punishment was lifted, she took a group of close friends to travel to the Sea of Yunmeng. But when she returned, she brought back an extremely handsome man. That instantly made my anger explode. The reason was simple. That man looked 70% like Su Qingxi's her unattainable first love. Was she really trying to play the substitute trope with me? That very day, she brought the pretty boy to me for a showdown, holding my hand. She acted spoiled and said, "Husband, look at those little company CEOs in the mortal world. They all have assistants. I want one too." I was so angry. I laughed. "All you do every day is eat, drink, and have fun. What do you need an assistant for?" Su Qingshi pouted, her eyes full of grievance. She shook my arm and said coquettishly, "Husband, all my close friends have assistants. At least the Empress. If I don't even have an assistant, then, if word gets out, I tell be your reputation that suffers. And if I have an assistant, he can help me handle some tedious affairs, and I can free up more time to spend with you. Isn't that a good thing?" I coldly glanced at the handsome man standing outside the door with lowered brows and lowered eyes. I couldn't help but think of my former junior brother, who had also been Su Qingshi's, her unattainable first love. They had been childhood sweethearts. Everyone had thought the two of them would end up together, but sadly, during the Great War with the demon race, both my master and my junior brother died in battle. On his deathbed, my master had begged me over and over to take good care of junior sister. I knew my master had always treated junior sister like his own daughter, and I had always liked junior sister too. So I agreed without hesitation. After becoming a great emperor, I married Su Qingshi with 80 Oni immortal grade spirit veins and 10,000 mu of peach orchard as the betrothal gift. The Su family had been showered with glory, standing in the limelight for a time, relying on those immense cultivation resources. The Su family leaped from an insignificant little clan into a top-tier family, second only to my Yi family. Over the thousands of years Su Qingshi and I had been married, I had pampered and doted on her to the utmost. "So, you mean him?" I said. "Why does this emperor feel like he looks a lot like someone?" Su Qingshu's face turned pale, and panic flashed across her eyes. "Husband, you're mistaken. I just simply find him pleasing to the eye." I let out a cold laugh. "And what if this emperor doesn't agree?" I suddenly grabbed her wrist and pinned her against the wall, my eyes burning with fury. "Su Qingshi, if you want to pick an assistant, you could choose from either the Yi family or the Su family. No matter what, There's no need for you to go find an outsider." Su Qingshi still met my gaze directly, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Ye Chen, you know, I would never betray you. You placed a restriction on me. In all 3 realms, aside from you, no one can touch my body. What else do you have to worry about? Nowadays, the mortal world talks about equality for everyone. Don't think you can control me with your power. When we got married, you said you would agree to 3 requests of mine. This is the last one. So, today, I'm not here to discuss it with you. I'm only here to inform you." After saying that, she pushed me away and walked straight out. This emperor's word was as good as gold. If I said it, then it had to count. So this was some kind of awakening of women's rights consciousness. Looks like I had treated Su Qingshi too well all these years, which was why she was so fearless and spoiled. Again and again, she tried to challenge my bottom line. In this emperor's eyes, emotional cheating was cheating too. She already had a death wish. After Su Qingshu left, I looked through the pretty boy's information. The pretty boy was called Yue Hua, and he belonged to the Moonlight clan. The Moonlight clan was a very special race. It stood somewhere between the human race and the demon race, and they were also called Moonlight spirits. Among this race, the men were handsome, and the women were stunning. Among all the races in the 3 realms, they were the one with the highest looks. So they were also her unattainable first love in countless people's hearts. They usually cultivated by absorbing moonlight, but the drawbacks were obvious too. Moonlight energy was scarce and simply couldn't support the huge cultivation demands of the Moonlight clan. Their desire for spirit stones was even stronger than that of other races. It was hard for the Moonlight clan to become supreme experts through their own cultivation alone, so they had no choice but to attach themselves to other powerful beings to obtain massive cultivation resources. I immediately summoned the chief steward of the heavenly court, Immortal King Zhou. Clear out every single member of the Su family from among the million heavenly soldiers and generals in the heavenly court. At the same time, arrange for people to follow the Empress. If anything happens, report it immediately. Yes, Your Majesty. The Immortal Emperor. 3 days later, Su Qingshu came to me in a huff and demanded to know why I had driven the Su family out of the heavenly court. I couldn't even be bothered to explain to her anymore, and directly had people throw her out. Su Qingxi exploded with rage and stood outside, shouting at me. Ye Chen, as the dignified Immortal Emperor. You really are something. Are you seriously jealous over something this small? You'd better summon my Su family back to the heavenly court right now, or don't expect me to forgive you. After dropping those harsh words, she left with her little assistant in big strides. That night, Steward Zhou came in to report. He looked at me cautiously. Your Majesty, the Immortal Emperor. After the Empress left the heavenly court, she took her little assistant Moonlight to the auction house. She lit the sky lantern at the auction house and spent 1,300,000,000 immortal-grade spirit stones to buy a sapphire necklace for her assistant Yue Hua. Only after seeing that my expression remained unchanged did Steward Zhou continue. The Empress also recorded a video of it and posted it on social media. I frowned, but said nothing. I took out my phone and looked. Su Qingxi really had posted about lighting the sky lantern for her assistant at the auction house. Not a single person had dared like the video, nor was there a single comment. But I knew the entire Immortal Realm had already heard about it. As the Empress of the Immortal Realm, Su Qingxi had more than 1 billion followers and was basically a top celebrity of the Immortal Realm. She openly tried to please another man and then announced it to the whole internet. The only thing she meant to express was her dissatisfaction over me kicking the Su family out of the heavenly court. Good, very good. My face turned dark. I called Su Qingxu, but no one answered. Right after that, I sent her a voice message. Su Qingxu, if you've got the guts, then never answer my calls again. As expected, there wasn't a bit of movement from the other side. Immortal King Zhou, bring the crown prince and the 3 princesses to me immediately, right now. Steward Zhou hurried out to make the calls. A faint smile curled at the corner of my lips. Everything was under control. Very quickly, the crown prince and the 3 princesses all arrived. Each one lowered their head, and none of them looked very good. Clearly, they all already knew about what their mother had done with the little assistant. I didn't beat around the bush. I spoke directly. Since all of you already know, then tell me, how do you think this should be handled? My eldest daughter, Ye Xingxuan, gritted her teeth and said, Father Emperor, I think Mother is just confused for the moment. Why not wait until she comes back, and then we all try persuading her? I wasn't surprised by Yi Xingxuan's suggestion. She was the most similar to the Empress in personality, and the 2 of them were also the closest. Yao Guang and Yao Biao both frowned, unable to answer. For a while, Ye Xuanci stepped forward. Father Emperor, your son believes that Mother's actions this time are no different from a direct challenge to your authority and an open slap to the Imperial clan's face. The authority of the Immortal Emperor is sacred and inviolable. The Imperial clan cannot be humiliated. The Su family relied on 80 own immortal-grade spirit veins and 10,000 mu of peach orchard to advance by leaps and bounds in strength. And in the Immortal Realm, they have acted arrogantly and tyrannically. Now they take our Imperial clan less and less seriously. Your son believes we should take this opportunity to weaken the Su family's strength, give the entire Immortal Realm a warning, and also give Mother a wake-up call. Yi Xuanci really had grown quickly. Every word he said struck exactly where I wanted. My strength had already broken through to an even higher realm. Once he broke through to the Emperor realm, I would let him take over my position. It would also be time for me to go see other worlds and the depths of the cosmos, relying on those enormous cultivation resources. The Su family had already nurtured 3 Quasi-Emperor experts. In recent years, the Su family had acted more and more arrogantly and paid less and less regard to the Imperial clan. If the Su family did not fall, then one day it would surely become a tiger, raised to bring disaster. If an Emperor Realm expert emerged from the Su family while I was away from the Immortal Realm, then the Su family would definitely rebel. At this moment, it was the perfect chance to let the Su family become the whetstone for my son. Yeah, Xingxuan pressed her lips together, wanting to say something, but stopping herself. Yao Guang and Yao Biao both kept their eyes lowered to the ground. Only Yi Xuanci stood straight and waited for my decision. Xuanci is right. My voice echoed through the hall with unquestionable authority. The laws of the Immortal Realm are not decorations, and the Imperial clan's dignity must never become a joke. Ye Zixuan suddenly raised her head. Father Emperor, but mother. She is the Empress. That means she should understand boundaries even more. I cut her off and continued. The Empress openly acting ambiguously with another man is not just a fit of temper. She is telling the entire Immortal Realm that the SU family can do whatever it wants, and that the Imperial clan's dignity can be trampled at will. Zixuan shuddered and finally said nothing more. Transmit this Emperor's decree. Su Qingxi relied on favor and broke her vows, indulged her clan's tyranny, privately favored an outsider, and threw the order of the court into chaos, and disgraced the Imperial clan. Strip her of the Empress position. Recover the 80 immortal grade spirit veins and the 10,000 mu of peach orchard. Whoever dares disobey the Imperial decree shall be killed without mercy. I used the laws of heaven and earth to project my decree across all realms. The entire Immortal Realm saw this Emperor's decree, especially the final words. Killed without mercy, which carried monstrous killing intent. The Immortal Emperor deposing the Empress. This was the greatest event in the Immortal Realm in 3,000 years. The laws of heaven and earth interwove into giant golden characters and hung above the sky of the Immortal Realm. As the Immortals looked up, every one of them was shaken to the core. Everyone knew the SU family was about to be in trouble. Inside the auction house, Yue Hua was enveloped by immense happiness, but he also began to feel somewhat uneasy. He looked cautiously at the Empress and uncertainly asked, Your Majesty, the Empress, if the Immortal Emperor finds out that you lit the sky lantern for me, he won't get angry, right? The Empress let out a disdainful laugh. I only spent a little more of his spirit stones. What does it matter? Besides, you're my assistant, and you're so considerate. You deserve the best gift I can give you. He had the nerve to kick my SU family out of the heavenly court, so he deserves a lesson. Seeing the unease in Yue Hua's eyes, she added another explanation. Relax. The Immortal Emperor loves me that much. This time, Hez only throwing a little tantrum. Does he think I'll bow my head just because he used a few little tricks? What a joke. Let's ignore him. Only after hearing the Empress say that did Yue finally feel more at ease. Just as Su Qingxi was putting the necklace on Yue Hua, she suddenly felt her heart quake. Looking up and seeing the decree, the necklace clanged to the floor. Impossible. She screamed. No. That can't be right. How could the Immortal Emperor treat me like this? She finally panicked, trembling all over. She took out her phone and frantically started calling me. Of course, I wasn't going to answer. I directly blacklisted her number. Inside the Sue family's great hall, the atmosphere was full of murderous tension. Veins bulged on the Sue family head's forehead, and with one palm strike, he smashed a table made from immortal-grade spirit stone into dust. Qingxi only found herself an assistant. Yet that dog of an Immortal Emperor dares depose the Empress and recover our immortal-grade spirit veins and peach orchard. Hez, going too far. Every elder's face was solemn. Patriarch, it said that your grandson, the Crown Prince of the Heavenly Court, is personally leading the force to take them over right now. What do we do? The SU family head pondered for a moment, and a fierce gleam flashed across his eyes. I originally wanted to wait a few hundred more years until our Su family produced an Emperor Realm expert before taking action. It seems the Immortal Emperor doesn't intend to give our SU family that chance, since the Immortal Emperor himself is so eager to die. Then I can only help him. A monstrous, blood-red mist suddenly rose from the Suemli head's palm, and from within it emerged an ancient blood-colored sword. The moment this sword appeared, murderous intent surged into the heavens, and heaven and earth changed color. Thunder rumbled across the 9 heavens like an apocalyptic catastrophe. The ancient blood-colored sword was like a slumbering prehistoric beast, slowly awakening. The entire Su family hall began to tremble. Teth, it's actually 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than even an imperial weapon. How is that possible? The higher-ups of the Su family all turned pale in shock. Just sensing the aura of the blood sword made them all feel as if their bodies were about to explode. This sword has slept for countless hundreds of millions of years. The Su family head's eyes burned with fanaticism, and even his voice was trembling. According to the ancient records, this sword is called the Emperor Slaying Sword. It is a desolate artifact from the ancient era. In ancient times, it once killed 3,000 immortal emperors and is the most ferocious sword in all ages. Immortal Emperor Yi probably never even dreamed that this sword was dug out from the immortal grade spirit veins. With this sword, I have a 90% chance of slaying Immortal Emperor, beneath it. The Xiu family was overjoyed with an ancient desolate artifact emerging. Immortal Emperor Yi was definitely doomed. Looks like the skies of the Immortal Realm were really about to change. On the other side, Yi Xuan's was leading 300,000 heavenly soldiers and generals to take over the 80 immortal grade spirit veins and 10,000 mu of peach orchard. Yi Xuan's had an imperial weapon protecting him unless an Emperor Realm expert made a move. He was basically invincible, but for safety's sake, I still hid myself in the void and guarded him. Yet at that very moment, thunder rolled across the 9 heavens, and dense, killing intent surged into the sky, spreading through all 3 realms. I actually sensed a trace of danger. This was the first time in 3,000 years I had felt such a thing. Interesting. And the direction it came from was actually the Su family's old estate. My figure vanished instantly, and when I appeared again, I was already above the Su family. My eyes locked directly onto the sword in the Su family head's hand. An ancient, desolate artifact. I was instantly overjoyed. Ever since my breakthrough, I had been worrying over not finding a suitable weapon. This Su family really knew how to think things through for me. So they had already prepared one for me, as expected of in-laws. When the Su family saw me arrive in person, not a single one of them knelt, holding the desolate artifact. The Su family head pointed at me and loudly rebuked. Yi Chen, do you know your crime? I looked at him teasingly. Patriarch Su, your Su family dares not kneel when seeing this emperor. What nerve? Are you preparing to rebel? The words rebel made the Su family head's beard and hair bristle in fury. He gripped the emperor-slaying sword even tighter. Yi Chen, you deposed the empress of my Su family and seized my Su family's spirit veins, and now you still dare speak such shameless nonsense here. Today, I will use your emperor's blood to honor the edge of my emperor-slaying sword. Then he changed his tone. But if you kneel and kowtow to beg for mercy right now, then, for Qing Shu's sake, I can still leave your children intact corpses. I hope you won't misjudge the situation. The 7 Su family elders also shouted one after another. Dog, Immortal Emperor, why aren't you kneeling already? Our Su family has already shown the utmost benevolence by going this far. That's right. Hurry up and kneel and admit your mistake. You really think you're invincible under heaven? What a joke. My eyes turned cold when I looked at the Su family again. It was like I was looking at a group of dead people. Looks like in the past, this emperor really had treated them too well. Every single one of them actually dared ignore this emperor's authority. It's only an ancient, desolate artifact. Do you really think it can do anything to this emperor? The Su family head flew into a rage. Since you're looking to die, then I'll grant your wish. Before his voice had even fallen, he suddenly swung his sword. A blood-colored sword light, thousands of miles long, slashed out, shattering the void inch by inch wherever it passed. This sword carried the fierce, murderous aura of countless hundreds of millions of years. The entire Immortal Realm felt a destructive presence. Countless living beings trembled in fear, and a nameless panic rose in their hearts. A mocking smile curved at my lips with a casual lift of my hand. A giant golden palm that covered half the sky slowly stretched out. Between its palm lines flowed the Tao intent of primordial chaos at creation, carrying the majesty to burn away all heavens. The 3,000's Jang blood-colored sword light shattered with a crash. The instant it hit the golden palm, it vanished into nothingness. The giant golden palm did not slow in the slightest, and still pressed down steadily. How is that possible? Why can't the ancient desolate artifact injure the Immortal Emperor in the slightest? What exactly is going on? The Su family was scared senseless. Their minds went blank. A feeling of despair wrapped around everyone's hearts. A world-destroying force came from that giant golden palm. The Su family members instantly felt like their bodies were on the verge of collapse. One after another, they cried out in despair. The Su family head refused to accept it and slashed out more than 100 times in succession. But the result remained exactly the same. The Su family fell into complete despair, and all knelt to beg for mercy. Immortal Emperor, spare us. We know we were wrong. Please, Immortal Emperor, spare us this once. Well, never dare again. No. Boom! The space where the Su family's old estate stood completely collapsed and turned into chaotic nothingness. Every single member of the Su family was annihilated in both body and soul. That one palm strike made the entire Immortal Realm tremble. The scene just now was uploaded online by distant spectators and instantly caused a massive uproar. It shot straight to the trending rankings. The might of the Immortal Emperor's single palm strike left all immortals dumbstruck. At last, they had seen the tip of the iceberg of the Immortal Emperor's power. It was terrifying, beyond belief. Countless immortals cursed the Su family for rebellion, treason, and repaying kindness with enmity. They had truly brought death upon themselves. By then, the ancient desolate artifact had already been taken into this emperor's possession. I was so excited that my hands were trembling. This was an absolute peerless killing weapon. Even if this emperor had not broken through into the ancient desolate realm and were still only in the emperor realm, the Su family head still could not have killed me. He was far too weak and simply couldn't bring out the true power of the ancient desolate artifact. Su Qingxie hurried back to the heavenly court and discovered that I had already gone out. When she reached the Su family, she arrived just in time to witness me annihilating the Su family with my bare hand. No, Su Qingxie wanted to stop me, but it was already too late. She could only watch helplessly as I wiped out the entire Su family with one palm strike. Su Qingxie simply could not accept it. She had only found herself a little assistant. So how had she ended up deposed as Empress and had her whole clan exterminated? She was overwhelmed with regret. If everything could start over, she would absolutely behave herself and properly remain the Empress. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Ye Chen, Su Qingxie suddenly spat out a mouthful of spat blood, and the last trace of warmth in her phoenix eyes froze into bone-piercing coldness. How can you be this heartless? Didn't you love me the most? How can you treat me like this? I couldn't be bothered to spare her another glance. With one palm strike, I crippled her cultivation, then turned to Yi Xuans, who had just arrived, and said, "Take your mother back to the heavenly court without my permission. She is not allowed to step outside the heavenly court again." Very quickly, Su Qingxie was dragged away. When I returned to the heavenly court, Yue Hua had already been waiting for a long time. I patted his shoulder. "You handled this mission well. I'll grant your Moonlight clan 2 immortal-grade spirit veins. From now on, you won't need to attach yourselves to other immortals anymore." Yue Hua was terrified and grateful, tears streaming down his face from excitement. He hurriedly prostrated himself on the ground, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you, Your Majesty, the Immortal Emperor." After Yue Hua left, I hurried back to watching Fairy Change's livestream. What? This emperor's alt account was the dignified #1 top donor, and after not showing up for one day, I've dropped to #5. Tian Peng, Hao Yi, Wu, Gang. And who the hell is Lin Zhan? They dare rank above this emperor, too.